Welcome back to Retirement Chef Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler. I'm your host, Doug Turnbull, taking over for Jeff Miles, who did a great job here over the first few months of this. Brian is the CEO and Senior Wealth Advisor of Wealth Standard Financial, serving the greater Houston, Texas area. And you can get in touch with them at wealthstandardfinancial.com and dig into some of those past episodes. Brian, just like we talked about the last time with making something tasty, even if you don't like the ingredients, we did that in the parlance of election season there. I think that's just a tone setter for how people are planning retirement. So before we dig into this topic today of trying to weather the storm, how are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I mean, I'm excited for this episode because I think it's really timely for people with all the things that are going on, the political unrest, the market unrest, tax environment. There's a lot to deal with, and hopefully we can be a partner and give you some great information that can help you make some good decisions.
Yeah, I think that's what people need. There's just a lot of hand-wringing going on, a lot of fear and things like that. Mm-hmm. And let me use this analogy, all right? You could say that you care about something, all right? But if you don't do anything to show that you care about something, the words don't really show that you care very much, right? If you tell your partner, I love you, I promise I'd do anything for you, but you don't actually do anything to show affection or do chores or back them up. Well, okay, great, you love me. In this case, you could care about retirement. Right. You could be upset and all these things are going to affect us, but if you don't actually take any steps and make sure there's enough in the pantry in case there is a, quote, famine, we're using that in different parlance, or some kind of storm to weather, well, that's not going to pay you very much here in your retirement. So how do people gear up? What are some ways to make sure you even know if you have enough in the pantry, and what kind of storms are people trying to weather too, Brian?
So this moves right into a great conversation that we lived. So my wife and I, we have a house in the southern part of Houston, and during the last few hurricanes and storms that we have every year, we never lost power. And so what'd that do to us? It made us complacent. And we said, we don't need to go to the grocery store and stock up. We don't need to put a lot of stuff in our pantry that if we don't have power that we can cook, because we've never lost power the whole time we've been here. We've been there 9 years. And that's exactly what we did. So we're watching this hurricane come through. I'm looking in the backyard and my fence is waving back and forth. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And guess what happened right after that?
Click.
Power went out. And we were like, oh, no, we were caught off guard. And that happens to many people when they think everything is going to be perfect. They think they did everything from a planning standpoint, and then they're caught off guard. And so what happened to us, we lost all the food in 2 refrigerators and a freezer. And we just weren't prepared. And so luckily, we still had some dry goods in our pantry, and we could cook outside. We could do a few things with the things that we had in there. But if we would have prepared a little bit better, just tweaking a few things ahead of time, we would have weathered that storm much, much better.
I know Harvey really impacted Houston a lot. National headlines with Harvey, and I think that was 2017. Was it that storm because it was bigger than the others, or had you even weathered Harvey and then you had a smaller one later on that knocked it out and kind of surprised you?
So this just happened. This was this summer. This was Hurricane Beryl.
I forgot about Beryl. Okay, wow.
It knocked power out to most of Houston for several days. And, we had a new certified financial planner that started with us. He moved from Omaha, and probably 4 days after he moved here, got hit with a hurricane, was out of power 5 days. I said, welcome to Houston.
Welcome to Texas. No kidding.
So being prepared for the things that you don't foresee or don't think will happen to you, it's very important to have your pantry stocked for, the potential of what could happen. So that means, do you have enough cash on hand from a retirement standpoint for an emergency fund? Do you have guaranteed sources of income? If you don't, do you have stable sources of income if you were to either lose your job, retire, or the market has a downturn? Are you prepared? And are you emotionally prepared for your investment choices? If they shoot up, are you overly exuberant? that happens a lot, just like in Vegas. Or if they shoot down, are you too pessimistic? So do you have the right mix for yourself? Do you have protections built in? Do you have access to capital if the worst happens and you have damage to your home, or your insurance is in place? So all of these things are important. And when you start really detailing out all of the things that you want to protect in your retirement and in your life, it becomes a laundry list of stuff. And so you just want to be aware of what's happening.
If you don't have that plan, that's right. And how does your team help people come up with the plan? Like, where do you start in that discussion?
So the great thing is we spend most of the time at the beginning of a plan with gaining clarity, helping you gain clarity on what you actually want, because you would be totally surprised how many people say, oh, I want to retire. Okay, what do you want that to look like? Oh, I just don't want to go to work anymore. So what are you going to do to fill your days? Who are the people that you're trying to take care of? Do you have grandkids? Do you want to travel? Really allowing people to let themselves dream a little bit. So once you're able to gain that clarity, you gain clarity from what they want from a goal standpoint. Then you gain clarity from an asset standpoint. What are the assets that are going to be put to drive this retirement? And so when you put those two together, that's when you start putting together the plan that you can start implementing. And so once you have that clarity, you want to implement the strategies that can get you there. And then over time, you're going to optimize that plan, because once you get into retirement, you thought things were going to go one way, but you decided, you know what, I want to start a part-time business, or I want to travel more, or I want to move to this state. You really start to get your footing. And that's why it's financial planning versus a financial plan, because the planning is a process and it's going to change over time. And you're going through major life transition when you retire. And so we're going through that transition with you. And that transition will just continue to evolve throughout your whole retirement.
I love what you just said, that it is a constant state of planning. I don't think I've asked you or any of the people that we've worked with here, and I really would like to know, how often do you recommend somebody has committed to entrusting Wealth Standard Financial with this? How often do they meet with you to do that continuous planning, and, to stay with the metaphor here, continually check the pantry? How often is it every week? Is it once a year? I have no idea.
So when we bring on a brand new client, we like, for the first month, so the first 4 weeks, we like to meet at least once a week. So then that way we get some great understanding and some great momentum for the plan, keeping it top of mind for you, because we want to keep it top of mind so you stay engaged and we can keep giving you feedback. And then that first year, we'll meet once a month. And then typically after you go into that second year, it's usually every quarter, every 6 months, depending on, what the clients want. But in between that, there are many, many touch points, emails, video messages, meetings that we can send you and information. So we keep you engaged so that way the comfort level with us becomes higher and higher. And so that's usually the ongoing method. We want at the beginning of the relationship, because you don't know us, we don't know you. We really want to decrease the time that it takes for us to really build a plan that's customized for you and what you truly want.
But I love that plan. Here's what I think could easily happen: is we sign you guys up. We get in, we got ready, we're gonna take our cut, get our fees, and we don't talk to you again. And I'm sure that people have bad taste in their mouth for that happening in the past. And so you make sure that your team is familiar with what a client needs. And if they're a rookie at planning for retirement, if they're only 55, 60 years old, they're not 10 years into retirement, that you're guiding them step by step. And then once they're swimming on their own, you're checking back in on them. And then, of course, if the tide gets worse, you're checking back in more often. I think that's a great strategy there. And I think that's why things have worked out well for you guys. You have a lot of happy clients. I want to ask, too, one more thing before we wrap up. At Wealth Standard, have you had anybody come in and there's things that people plan for? You got to replace a roof, or even a spouse dying. You're not going to live forever. But what is an example of a storm that someone didn't plan for? That maybe one you've seen recur, or one instance in particular where they just got gobsmacked or blindsided by something?
So the one that's consistently happened at many different ages, I'm talking people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, is the long-term care conversation.
Oh, goodness, yes.
People have perceptions of what long-term care is, whether they need it, whether they're going to, 70% of people, this was a study, around 70% of people are going to need some type of long-term care at some point in their lives. And around 10% of people have some type of long-term care plan. And so when you're dealing with something, a lot of acute things happen when you retire, and you might need long-term care for 4 to 5 years. But things like dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that, people are living for a long time through the medical miracles that are out there. And so if you live 5, 10, 15, 20 years with dementia, you need care for that whole time because you can't live by yourself. And so what's the plan for that? So if you have taxes that are going to be a huge part of your retirement, and then healthcare could be a huge part of your retirement, what's the plan to take that without stopping you from doing the things that you truly want to do? And so planning around long-term care, taking some of that stress off of your retirement assets and putting it on the books of an insurance company has been one of the conversations that we've had for people. I've known former classmates, completely healthy, have heart attacks and then not be able to work for a year or two. What does this family do? And then I've known 70, 75-year-olds who get to that age and realize, you know what, I think I need long-term care. But at one point in the recent past, they might have had cancer or might have had a lung issue that all of a sudden disqualifies them from being qualified. So the earlier you can get things like long-term care in place or have the conversation to have a plan around it, it's a huge thing. Last year was the first year. I'm 47. Sometimes I forget. I'm 47. So last year was the first year where I said, okay, I might need to look into long-term care because it's pretty cheap because I'm young. In theory, I'm young and it'll be pretty cheap.
So think about that. Yes.
So if I get it now, it's going to be pretty cheap, but it'll go a long ways if I ever was to need it. So I would rather have it in place early than have to worry about it later on, because a lot of things can change if that happens.
So you're talking about, is that an insurance policy or what? Is that something that will cover your long-term care later in life? If you buy it now, it's cheaper to do that? Is that generally how that works?
The younger you are, the cheaper insurance will be if you qualify for it. So there's no better time than today. Tomorrow is going to be more expensive. So we have that acronym that we talk about is time. Tomorrow is more expensive. And so,
oh my gosh, that is great. Time. Tomorrow is more expensive.
And so when you're looking at these type things, the earlier you can do it and plan for it, the better. There is no waiting. Let me wait till next year. It's going to be more expensive than it was today. And so we want people to plan for these things, at least have the conversations. And there are many strategies that can help you pay for long-term care. But how do you take some stress off of your retirement portfolio from that standpoint? And then there are a myriad of other asset plans that you need to have in place as you get ready to retire.
That is a great way to leave it off there, because my pantry is already getting full right now, at least my mind pantry, of just thinking about some of this stuff. So, Brian, these are great tips there. I mean, time. Tomorrow is more expensive. Do we have enough planned up for when the going gets tough? And hey, you're brilliant at this stuff. You've told us all these things. Even you, just with the weather, got taken off guard. So certainly if you all can fall victim, if you all could be complacent about it in that sense, any of us could be. So be sure to get with the retirement chef here. That's Brian Butler, the CEO and Senior Wealth Advisor of Wealth Standard Financial. Go to wealthstandardfinancial.com, and they would love to talk with you and start exploring your options there. And serving that greater Houston, Texas area, Brian, I know that your time is very limited, but I'm sure you'd welcome anybody listening right now to do just that.
Oh, absolutely. We have great information on our website, plenty of ways for you to contact us, get on our calendar, have a free strategy session to talk about your particular situation, because that's the best part of my job, having these conversations with people and showing them that there's a path to retirement, to a great retirement.
Free strategy session. I like that. It's strategy. Not everybody calls that. But this is definitely a strategy. All right. We're not just throwing darts in the dark here. Okay. Again, wellstandardfinancial.com. Thank you so much, Brian Butler, for joining us there and being our senior wealth advisor on this journey. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, share this. Make sure your friends, your parents, your older siblings, younger siblings, whoever, know what's going on. This is the Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler, and we'll have another podcast episode with you very soon.
The opinions voiced in The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler, are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth are not affiliated with CWM LLC. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.